If you stumbled upon this video, that you are probably Googling a lot of things about how to have a provider man actually provide things for you. But there's a lot of confusion as to what provision actually is and what these healthy masculine men provide. In fact, there's so much confusion that a lot of women end up in some kind of murky, messy situations because there's a lack of understanding in this concept. So in this video, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about all the ways in which healthy masculine men actually provide for you and should be providing for you. Hi, my name is Amanda. Welcome to this channel where we talk about how to manifest what you want in life without all the extra stress, chaos, and drama that most people are accustomed to. So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we have coming out on this channel. I have a goal of daily videos to help you guys because we've got so many questions coming in about relationships, both from private clients, from students taking our master classes, and really just in the comment section. Try my best to get through all of them. So make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, give it a like because that actually helps us get this information in front of more women. And as always, I have resources for you guys. So whether you want to work with me privately or you want to check out some of our master classes that can help with the specific content that we're talking about, this one, probably the best masterclass for this one, for those of you who want to go deeper, is the masculine and feminine energy dynamics masterclass, where I talk about what that dance looks like in relationships, what that dance looks like in money, and also other areas of your life. So information for that is below. Okay, so let's get into this concept of provision and why this has become so freaking confusing for so many women. I've been on one-on-one calls with some of you who are married and your husband is making you go 50-50 on bills. You're feeling exhausted. You're feeling like a roommate. You're feeling very frustrated. You're not feeling taken care of, or like this man is devoted to you, really. I have other conversations with some of you who are in the dating phases and you're just kind of confused as to like what healthy provision is versus what non-healthy behavior is. So let's get one thing out of the way first. Men are wired to protect and provide. It is in them, it is in their nature to do that. If they're not doing it, I mean, let's be real, like culture is very confusing right now. We had a comment come in recently from a man, shout out to you. Usually the men who show up in the comment section are trying to fight with me because they don't like it that I'm teaching women how to have self-esteem and how to not get manipulated by feminized men. But the healthy men are coming in the comment section and thanking me for helping women understand these things. So thank you to you guys. I see you, and the other women see you as well. But one of the things that came up in the comment section that we have to understand is that there's been a lot of confusion, particularly like in the United States and Western countries, although I'm in Mexico right now and I can tell you it's starting to happen here as well. Because there's a lot of confusion when it comes to polarity, communication, how the sexes are different. There's just so much confusion. And in the United States specifically, which is where I'm from, there's like extra confusion because now, women have been told like, hey, in order for you to be empowered, you're equal to a man. And a lot of them took that as like, I'm going to split the bills 50-50, not realizing that a lot of women ended up negotiating against themselves in that situation because women ended up taking a lot more responsibility, including responsibilities that belonged to men, and then men didn't take on more responsibility. And not only have they not taken on more responsibility, now they are also being fed very confusing things, or they're in situations, sometimes young men, where, for example, they are more traditional, or they do want to be protectors and providers because, again, it's innately in them. But let's say they'll go open a door for a young woman and then she'll chew him out for having opened the door. In addition to that, you have stuff that they see on the internet. Unfortunately, my generation got raised by TV, so that didn't quite help in terms of understanding healthy relationship dynamics because, we had like Friends and Sex and the City, and that screwed a lot of people up. Well, younger generations are being raised by the internet, which is extra crazy because you don't even know what's real and what's not, what's healthy, what's not. And then there's people who just know how the algorithms work and they know how to get attention, and their message, Andrew Tate being one of these, their message isn't even a good message for young men. And then we end up in these even worse situations because people are being fed a lot of information that you don't know if it's healthy or it's not. And, people aren't getting healthy examples of relationships at home, and then they're being raised by social media, and social media is a mess. And the stuff that gets the most attention and the most eyeballs is the messy stuff that isn't healthy. That's the most entertaining stuff, right? Is the messy stuff. But the stuff that's actually healthy isn't that entertaining. So then it just doesn't get shown as much unless somebody actually goes to look for it, which is probably how you ended up on this channel. So we have to understand the landscape that we are dealing with in the world. There's a relationship crisis in the world where people do not understand how to be in relationship with each other, and they do not know what healthy versus unhealthy is. And then society is throwing a bunch of fuel on that fire. I have some conspiracy theories as to why. And in addition to that, like a lot of women, for example, they will want more traditional things. They want a man to be a provider, but then they feel like, they're turning their back on feminism, for example, to which my question to you is, what is so empowering about paying half the bills, or in some cases all the bills, because some of you are carrying a man, let's be real, having your husband act like he's your child, you feeling like his mother, you having to go work, you having to raise kids, you having to clean. What is so empowering about this? Absolutely nothing. Most of you are totally exhausted and starting to come to the realization that although you are equal to a man, you are still very different from a man, and you have different needs, and men have different needs than you do. And anybody who tries to tell you otherwise is just completely full of crap and doesn't understand the psychology between men and women or how we have evolved over time. So all of that to say, there's a lot of confusion that is causing a mess. And just like a lot of women are confused in terms of like, a lot of you have told me like, hey, I found your channel, and honestly, I didn't even know that I probably shouldn't be planning the dates, or I didn't know that I shouldn't be offering to pay half the bills. I didn't understand the psychology of how all this stuff works. Nobody told me. Well, guess what? A lot of men are also very confused, and nobody told them, and perhaps they've had not great situations with a bunch of confused women. So you have confused men and confused women all trying to date each other in more clouds of confusion, if that makes sense. Okay, we have laid out the landscape. Now let's talk about what men are supposed to provide. Number one, money. I'm going to start with money, but I want you to know it's actually not the most important one. Sometimes what happens is that women will end up in situations where they avoid other red flags just because the guy has money, right? So I just want to be very clear about that. Money is not the most important thing. They also have to be providing these other things that I'm going to be sharing with you. So yes, provision. Girl, you shouldn't be paying bills, okay? Especially survival bills like the house or food or insurance. The reason being, whether you like to admit it or not, you are the most vulnerable one. So the minute you start having sex with a man, you're vulnerable because you're the one who can get pregnant. So what happens, even if you're doing your best to try not to get pregnant, you can still get pregnant. So keeping that in mind, we have to start thinking and making decisions based on, hey, if I'm the one who can get pregnant here and I'm the one who's actually more vulnerable, then I need to make sure that the man is at least covering all the survival things that would be required should a child start coming into this world because of our relationship. A lot of people don't think like that. And then they end up in situations where they're paying bills, raising kids, and raising their man because they didn't have that as a standard. The other reason why this is important is because men feel like men when they are providing. They feel like they're on purpose. They feel like they're on a mission. It keeps the polarity alive in the relationship. If you're trying to go 50-50 on bills, first of all, it's impossible to go 50-50 in a relationship because it's just not a thing, guys. And then that's when you end up in situations where everything is tit for tat. So this is where you end up in relationships where it's like, okay, you're 50-50 on bills. Okay, I need you to go 50-50 on housework. How's that working out for you, ladies? Not well, because most of the men still haven't picked up the slack with the housework. And even if they have, you still feel like you're unprotected and not being taken care of and not being cherished, because you just have too much stuff to worry about already for a man to just be putting bills on top of that for you. Like, you should have a man that even if the situation is not looking great financially, he will move heaven and earth to make sure that there is money coming in so that you don't have to worry about surviving. Because when women get into survival mode, it starts to kill relationships. A lot of men don't know that. So to the men who are listening, if you want her to stop bitching at you, go step up and pay the bills and watch how it starts to subside. Now, as a woman, you have to release control, and that is a whole other topic of conversation that I could do another video on. That's actually quite challenging for a lot of women. So money's number one. At the very least, anything having to do with survival should be on him. Now, if you want to go make, like, I like to work, I like to make money, I'm very creative, I have a lot of creative energy, I have to use it, otherwise it turns into anxiety, and I enjoy doing this and helping you guys. Money comes in from this. Okay, well, that's my money, or it's money that we can use for investments or pleasure or like long term. So it's interesting how we were working with some of our teachers here in Mexico, and I think this is the best way I've ever heard it put, was here in Mexico from some of our teachers. So they basically said, you know, the masculine is more about like the tangible money, like you work for this money kind of a thing. And then the feminine is more about the wealth and the multiplication of money. So you can take that same concept into your relationship. And men also don't realize, to the men who are listening, that if you step up and you start taking care of all the bills, the amount of money that you're going to make, a lot of men don't realize that they end up making more money as a result of it, because now they have a purpose, a goal, and a target. What happens is that if men don't have a purpose, a goal, a target, they will get lazy. Okay, it just is what it is. And men need to understand that about themselves, and women need to understand that too. They will get comfortable. And when they get comfortable, they stop, their ambition starts to die. They stop pursuing things. So women don't realize that if they don't make this a part of the relationship, like, hey, you're paying the bills, you're basically cutting him off at the knees from being able to make even more money over time. And a lot of men don't realize that either. And then in addition to that, imagine if you're working for fun, you're going to make a lot more money. As a woman, if you are working for fun and because you enjoy it, because joy is magnetic and it brings all those abundance and all those things to you. My husband is shocked at how easily I attract money. And I said, it's because I'm having fun, because I'm not worried about bills, right? So that's another way to look at it as well. And I'll have my husband come on. He's already said, he's like, hey, I want to go do some videos for some of the guys and also to help some of the women. So I'll have him come on to talk more about this from like the male perspective and why it's so important. Okay, so money's number one. Number two, solutions to problems. If a man is not bringing solutions to your problems, something is off. So a lot of women end up in a dynamic in relationships where they're solving all the problems for men. Now, if you're in the dating stages, you're going to end up attracting very feminized men if you do that. Men should be solving their own problems. In fact, they hate it when you give them advice unless they asked you for it. If they asked you for it, totally different. If they didn't ask you for it, you're just emasculating him. And if you're in the dating phases and you're doing that, you're going to repel healthy masculine men, and you're going to attract more feminized men who are looking to put a whole lot on your back as a woman. Now, if you're married and like the dynamic just kind of shifted, it's a little bit of a different story, because perhaps it started off where he was being more of the provider, then you have kids, life starts to life, you know, it is what it is. Things get more complicated because again, life starts to life, and these are just skills that we have to learn. You know, relationships, manifesting what you want, polarity, money, all of it is just skills that you have to go learn, and then you apply those skills and you get the results that you want. So If you're married, right, then sometimes what happens when women are married and they see that men are not stepping up to solve their problems or make decisions, a lot of times it's because there was a pattern in the marriage where, and I'm not saying this is the whole time, some of you just married the wrong dude, but assuming you did not marry the wrong dude, which I'm going to venture to say at least half of you did not, then what ends up happening is that sometimes in the way that you are communicating with him, you end up emasculating him, and then at some point in his mind, he starts going, okay, well, if I can't solve the problem the way that she wants me to, like, what's the point? I'm just going to get chewed out anyway, and then they get lazy. So that's one of the things that happens. So and remember that most men, all they want to do is make their women happy. So if no matter what he does, you're never happy and you're always criticizing it, he's going to be the one who starts leaning back, and then before you know it, you're going to be making all the decisions, and you're going to be frustrated about it and exhausted, and you guys are no longer having sex because the polarity is gone, because it's turned into like a mother son kind of relationship. So one of the things you want to learn how to do is, like, men want to be your hero. Ask them for help. Like, now don't come to them with drama. That's a different story altogether. But for example, I ask my husband for help all the time. And one of the things in which you can start doing this is you can start instead of complaining and being like, you didn't do this right, why didn't you do this, why don't you do that anymore, which is what most women do if we're being honest. One of the things you can do is you can start being like, hey, this is my desire. So for example, I went to my husband and I said, you know what, I have this desire for mindful success path. I just want, money coming in on autopilot so that when we're traveling or living in other countries, there's just money coming in and we don't have to worry about time zones or any of that stuff. I want the sleep money. It's what I call it, the sleep money. So I said, that's my desire. What did my husband do? My husband has spent the last 3 to 4 days completely building me a membership site from scratch. Not just in a way where it functions very well, but it keeps the costs low for me. So like my costs don't go through the roof for being able to do it. And at the same time provides you, those of you who purchase courses and programs and coaching and all that kind of stuff, with a very good, seamless, quick experience. Now, that is a man who is solving a problem. That is a man who is giving. That is a man who is a provider. And a lot of you, unfortunately, end up with men who just bring you problems, which then goes back to not knowing how to identify, what's healthy masculine behavior versus not, which I've done other videos on that. And the other thing that men provide is direction and correction. Now, caveat, right? How a man communicates the direction and correction is important, right? Conversation for another time. Like I said, my husband's going to start coming on here and talk to the dudes, because I'm not saying that men don't have responsibilities. They absolutely do. But I'm talking to the women because I am a woman, right? So my husband will be on later. So one of the things that men will provide that sometimes drives women crazy is correction and direction. So especially with very masculine men, and especially if they're very ambitious, one of the things, because they're wired to protect and provide, one of the things that they're always looking for is how to make things more efficient and how to make things better. So for example, right, that might look like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example, like from my own relationship. Like, okay, we have a new housekeeper, right? And, I'm training her on like what to do and stuff like that and what to do first. And then my husband might chime in and be like, okay, it probably makes more sense for you to do this versus this, right? Now, old Amanda would have gotten very frustrated because old Amanda would have taken it personally and been like, he doesn't think I'm doing a good job, which is what most women do. They will take the correction as criticism. But to a man, especially a masculine man, he has no idea in his mind that he could even be criticizing you. It's just like wires getting crossed because of different communication and different psychology. So one of the things to keep in mind is that oftentimes when men correct you, they are trying to make the situation more efficient so they can provide and protect better. Now, this is totally different than a man constantly criticizing you or negging you or making you insecure on purpose. I'm going to have him come on to talk about that too, because there is a scenario where unhealthy men will criticize you and make you insecure on purpose to manipulate you and try and get stuff out of you. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about healthy men who are very driven and ambitious and on purpose, and they're just trying to find more efficient ways of doing things. And the final thing men provide is clarity. What do you mean, Amanda? They provide clarity. I'm dating all these dudes, and the last thing they're giving me is clarity. They're not moving toward me. They're not planning dates. They're not solving my problems. They're pulling away. They're doing all these weird behaviors and things, or they're breadcrumbing me. Well, then you have your unanswer, because if he's not moving toward you, you have your answer. He's not that into you for whatever reason. Or if he's causing you a bunch of problems, then you have your answer that perhaps that's not the healthy masculine man that you are supposed to be with. So they're always providing you with some sort of an answer, even if the answer is, you shouldn't be dating me. Right? They're always giving, because men don't speak in metaphor and they don't speak in circles. Usually when men say something, they mean it. So an example would be in the beginning when you're dating and a man's like, I'm just not really that into commitment or marriage. Girl, believe him. Okay, believe him. He is being honest when he says that, and move on, because they're always giving you something, even if what they're giving you is not the answer that you want to hear. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Make sure to check out all the master classes that we have available below. The one that makes the most sense for this class is the masculine and feminine energy dynamics masterclass, so you understand the polarities and how they work together in relationships. So you can find that below. Those of you who've been asking for private coaching, you can apply for that below as well, for those of you who want more one-on-one support. And I'll catch you on the next one.